This is the Peach State Power Hour. I'm not Paul Maharry. Eddie from Acworth is here. Andy Stowe is here. I'll let them tell you about the sponsor of the show in just a minute, simply because I'm parachuting in here and doing slightly more prep than Paul. That is my baseline. Be just a little bit better than Paul.
Not too hard. That is not hard at all.
Yeah, okay. Really. The bar, you just step over the bar there, right? It's on the ground.
He's going to fire us.
So I'm here to be slightly better than Paul and to kind of make fun of the name of the show, which I still like to do because it could be like a political season in Georgia show. I could see that working there. Huh. You know, Kramer and Seinfeld was an ass man. I could see some internet version of, okay. Hey, you know, the
Kramer.
emoji.
I love Kramer.
But we're going to talk about Georgia sports. That's what happens on this show. And I'll have a fun exercise for you, which is I don't watch the Falcons. So I'm going to look at their box score and tell you what I think based on that. But Eddie, do you want to tell us about the partners that make this show possible at first? And we can get into them through the structure of the show as we go.
Sure. I'll introduce them. Dane, thank you very much for stepping in tonight. We really appreciate you doing that. And as always, guys, click the like button, share it with your friends, tell everybody. And Dane will put your chats up there. We'll talk about them if they're relevant and they make good sense. You know, we'll kick it around. But I'm going to talk about M. Jones HVAC. They've been a great partner for us so far. Can fix that heating and air system of yours. We're going into 2025. Things are going to get more expensive. So call the twins, Michael and Matthew. They'll come out there and fix you up. And we really appreciate them they've been a great sponsor. We'll talk about them a little bit more. Well, there you go. I was going to say we'll do it halfway through the show, but Dane's doing it right now. So putting up their website, mjoneshvac.com. If you don't like using the phone like me, go to their website, click the contact us button, put your info in there, type in or call them and say UGA Sports told me to call. You get 10% off repairs, 5% off installs. So there you go.
Wait, so we need to start with Georgia, right? That's what.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the custom on this show. Georgia beats Mississippi State in a game that I think we all thought would be more lopsided going into it. And then about halfway through, we thought, okay, it's going to be lopsided now. And then here come those Mississippi State Bulldogs with a quarterback in this Van Buren kid who, if you told me that was the same human being on the first two drives and the same human being in the second half.
Yeah.
He entered you remember on Family Matters when Urkel would enter the little chamber?
The transformation chamber.
And come out of Stefan Urkel?
Yes.
That's what that cat did, man, because like he could not hit an inside slant for 4 yards. He was missing that by 8 yards.
Yes, he was.
And then he was throwing dimes down the field.
Football. Yes.
I don't understand it, but that's one of the beauties of college football is as long as I've covered it, I don't understand what's happening here. Andy, what the hell with that Van Buren kid? And maybe secondarily, what the hell with Georgia secondary?
I do not know because we weren't really hitting the guy that much. And I think he just got comfortable. And then our secondary, man, I don't want to like bash it, but they are struggling with coverage. And I see like a lot of people talking about how Kirby likes to set everyone out on the island and let them play man coverage. Next week versus Texas, do you guys think we go to more of a zone type defense and try not to leave them out on islands? Because that's a change that maybe they have to make. Because right now we can't cover anybody one-on-one, and Texas is clearly a lot better than what Mississippi State is going to put out there.
Well, I'll tell you that there's more zone coverage than you realize in yesterday's game from watching film don't lie. And that's fine until certain guys that were the number 6 are spinning around trying to figure out which way to go in that zone coverage.
So that may weigh back into not being able to pressure and sack the quarterback, I think, more so than what you said, Andy. I mean, we're not getting any pressure up front, and that's traditionally what we've done the past couple of years. It's been that pass rush up front, and we don't have that. I don't know what it is. It's just like we can't generate that rush to hurry up the quarterback. If anything, a sack aside, hurry that quarterback process up, right, and make him make a panic throw. But I'll ask you this, Dane. You look around college football, and by the way, college football is the greatest sport in the world. I mean, there's just no question. Yesterday was so fun. Last Saturday was so much fun. All those games, LSU, all around the league. Ohio State, great game, great football. Tech even pulled off a miracle win. That was a great football game. It's just unbelievable.
Georgia Southern.
Georgia
Had
Southern.
One of those 99% going to lose and then won it in the end.
But you look around at these teams that I watch play, and they have weapons, guys that make you scared. Jeremiah Smith, a weapon for Ohio State. The quarterback from Vandy, he's a weapon, right? Haynes King, I know he got hurt. He's a weapon. He's scary. Who on this Georgia football team
scares people?
The opposition. Who is that? Do we have that guy?
Trevor Etienne, maybe. Maybe.
He's scary, though.
Yeah, there's contributors. I think this is one of the things that we're seeing with Georgia is what was Brock Bowers, what was Ladd McConkey. If everything else is going wrong, just find a way to get it to them, and they'll make everything else right.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been Georgia's offensive line.
Yeah,
coming into the year, Georgia's offensive line should have been dominating the line of scrimmage in every game and making running the ball easy. That the fact that Georgia is having trouble getting 4 yards on a carry or having trouble icing games that way to where Carson Beck throwing the amount that he did usually is not a formula of success for Georgia. And it's something that Kirby Smart is massively uncomfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look back at his time coaching, and you can make the argument, Carson Beck had a lot of great throws against Alabama. He also had the turnovers that he did.
Mm-hmm.
If you throw that much with him, you're going to have interceptions like the one at the end zone, which I think you're going to chat about some of that later in this, Andy. But that interception at the end zone was horrible for someone that could be potentially an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and you're talking about the running game. I know you said you didn't watch the Falcons, but they went on like a 4, 5, 6 minute death march at the end of the game.
Baton death march. That's exactly right. And,
Kirby, that was something that we have always done since Kirby's been here. That death march at the end of the game, running the ball 5, 6, 7, 8 yards to carry. There's none of that now. I mean, we're 1, 2, 3 yards to carry at best. So yeah, it's the offensive line is one of the biggest, if not the most disappointing parts of this team this year for me.
And you could kind of lay that at the feet of Wilson being out, Tate Ratledge being out. But Dane, even when they were healthy and in at the few games they were in, it's not like we were dominating and mashing the line of scrimmage. So something is something is off with the offensive line. Something is off with this entire team, top to bottom. It's just off. And can you put your finger on it? Because I certainly can't.
I said that there was a lack of leadership on this team, especially an emotional leader. And I'm not saying that there aren't guys that are trying. You need your best players to be the ones that work the hardest.
Yeah.
Brock Bowers did that for multiple years at Georgia. I don't know that Jalen Carter always did that, but he was good enough. And Jordan Davis did that.
Yes.
Stetson Bennett. I mean, Stetson.
Yeah, sometimes. Late in Stetson Bennett's career, within the final year of him being at Georgia, I was told that the entire team had to run extra because he didn't wake up on time. So,
really? Okay.
But Dane, who is all right? So you said you think last year it was Brock Bowers was the emotional leader, even though
no, I don't think he was the emotional leader.
Okay, who was it?
Last year? Well, that team didn't win a championship. That's one thing.
I understand. But
maybe that was part of the issue. Because the year before, you'd say Stetson Bennett.
Stetson. Right. It was for yeah.
Right.
Okay. And now, did you listen to Kirby's press conference? Did y'all hear that he talked about not having a leader? He said the leaders are the ones that are injured right now.
Yes.
So you got to have your leaders on the field. So maybe that's a part of it. But like you said, though, Eddie, even when they were on the field, it still was different. It was different.
I think last year was probably Van Pran. I think he was a lot of that.
Yeah.
This year, Ratledge was probably that.
Kirby mentioned. Smile. He mentioned him. Yeah, there you go.
I think one of Georgia's issues is that the players that you look at and you say, oh, man, those are the ones that don't take a play off. They do everything the right way. It's Jalen Walker, who I think is going to be a stud in the NFL, but he is still a bit of a tweener. I think he's Georgia's best defender, but his inside linebacker reps aren't great right now.
No.
Dan Jackson, I think, is one of those guys. That team would run through a wall for Dan Jackson.
Yeah.
Who on that offense has who can galvanize the support? Now, look, you always look at the quarterback, and I've been as critical of Carson Beck as anyone that covers Georgia, and that's the biggest thing that I've had a problem with him is, does he galvanize support from his teammates to go run through a wall for him? And
I don't think that answer is yes. So.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. But then also, if you look around at the skill players, most of them are transfer guys. This is one of the problems with the transfer portal.
Yep.
that you just have people that don't connect with Georgia in the same way, and sometimes that's fine, and you can win games and all that. But Eddie, to answer your question in a very long-winded way, when I was hearing preseason, and even Kirby Smart was saying that one of our leaders on this team is Trevor Etienne, that was a red flag for me.
Yeah.
And not anything like with him. I think he's a fine player. I think he does a good job. But someone that comes in 4 months and becomes a team leader tells me that you had a void of leadership.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, is there anybody on this team right now that could step up to that? Because if your quarterback's not stepping up and everyone else is basically, I mean, let's see, name a wide receiver. Trying to think of a wide receiver that we, Dylan Bell.
Dylan Bell, yeah, that's who
I could be a guy, but Lawson Lucky potentially, because he seems to kind of have that little bit of a kind of a little swagger. But yeah, other than that, all the skill position guys are transfers, and it's hard to have a offensive line.
Let's reframe it this way. Going into next year's team, based on what we've seen from this year's team, who would be most likely to be those leaders? Because I do think Lawson Lucky is one of those guys.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to be one.
I don't know. That's
right. But even the fact that you're Georgia fans, but if I would have said this 3 years ago, you'd have been like, oh yeah, Brock Bowers for sure.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you had all the guys on defense that was kind of coming in one after one after one. Now you don't have that. And I don't know that we have that on defense either. Like, I don't know if we have that alpha man. Like, we don't have Nakobe. We don't have Jordan Davis. We don't seem to have that alpha that can just grab somebody.
Isn't that Malachi Starks?
This year it is. And I think it becomes KJ Bolden.
Yes, I do, but he's only a freshman. I'm saying now it's Malachi Starks, right? He's the quarterback of your defense.
He is, but he just doesn't feel like the Nakobe feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nakobe was that guy. He was the alpha, and I don't know that we have the alpha.
I think Starks is the alpha. He just probably behaves in more of a Bowers kind of way.
Yeah. He's more of a
Bowers wasn't getting in your face. It's funny, like on the 2017 team, Davin Bellamy was one of those emotional leader guys, but he wasn't one of the best players.
No, but he was in your face. Yeah.
But you need the combination of both of those things. For a long time, Stetson Bennett was the emotional leader guy, and he wasn't one of the best players. And then by the end of it, he became one of the best players. Yeah. So that's kind of the sweet spot, right? Where your emotional leader guy becomes one of your best players, and then you get TCU in the national championship.
Yep. Yeah, and you just smoked that team. That was like playing a high school team for the Dawgs.
Y'all get the first shot here to preview Georgia at Texas, which is a national marquee game, the first big SEC game for Texas, if you want to say it that way. Although I get it's Red River, so that was a special situation. But Oklahoma doesn't have nearly what Georgia has in terms of talent. Andy, on paper here, Texas a 3.5-point favorite from what I'm seeing. Yeah, you think that's a proper line?
I would say so, because we're going to Austin. I think if they were here in Athens, it may be a push. I think it might be just kind of a bet line. But yeah, you look at their stats, and they stats wise, they're not lighting it up though. They have 1,840 passing yards, where Georgia has 1,908. So rushing yards, we have 804. They have 1,133. So I mean, we're basically about the same yards for yards. I was really worried last night after the game, watching the Mississippi State game and how they were kind of lighting us up. But then you start seeing last night they went. I think Quinn Ewers had 199 yards passing. What was he? Let's see, it was 199, and then so he's not running the ball, so we don't have to worry about the running quarterback. So I think that helps Georgia more. So I feel better now than I did after that end of the Mississippi State game.
Well, I was floored. I did a little bit deeper dive than you did, Andy, in the stats, and I compared Texas and Georgia side by side, and I thought Texas is going to blow us away in 10 categories. It is literally 50-50. I was absolutely floored. I mean, points per game, Texas 35, UGA points per game 33.5. Penalties, I wanted this one to really stand out, and it didn't. I was floored. Texas gives up 50 yards a game in penalty. UGA a little bit more, 70 yards, but I thought it'd be double, right? Just seeing all the flags we get. Average rush per yards, Texas 5, we're 4.6, right? Passing yards per game, Texas 289, UGA 318. Here's the one discrepancy I found, though. Texas has 29 rushing TDs and 25 passing TDs. Georgia has 10 rushing TDs and 15 passing TDs. So there's a discrepancy. But other than that, these teams are very, you think about it, you're like, oh, Texas is just going to destroy us. On paper, we're very evenly matched. So I think that line, Dane, you asked about it, is perfect.
Well, Dane, without looking, who has a wide receiver with more yards, Texas or Georgia?
I'm guessing it's going to be Arian Smith at Georgia.
It is. And Arian Smith has 412, and Isaiah Bond has 369. So,
and, typically the line, they say that you get 3 points for being
3 points
the
at
home
home.
team.
That's right. So it's a half
Vegas
a point, right?
Half a point if it's on a neutral site. So it's close to a pick 'em.
Mm-hmm.
And that home field advantage is a big deal. If y'all saw the content that I wrote before Georgia at Alabama, and Carson Beck has played significantly better at home or neutral sites than he has on the road, with the exception of, I think, Tennessee last year. He had a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a prove it game.
It is.
Of what's Georgia made of here? Because I don't think they're going to get down 28 points like they did at Alabama, but we're seeing what other teams are doing to Alabama since then. South Carolina went into Tuscaloosa too.
Yeah,
and should have won the football game.
Yeah.
Should have won the game.
Right. Now, does it work to compare week to week to week? I think, Eddie, that's one thing you're saying, is that in college football, it's hard to do that because every week is almost its independent adventure.
It is.
The thing that I think doesn't go in Georgia's favor, home game for Texas, so it's going to be rocking SEC and then all the world looking at it. Quinn Ewers just being a very veteran adult in the room, going to be an NFL potential kind of player. And even in the event that something happened to him, Arch Manning's played great.
Yeah, and Arch can run too. Arch can run a lot, so I think that's a thing that we're not have to worry about.
And the stats that you brought up, Eddie, to me the main thing is that Texas is a very balanced attack.
Yeah,
that they should be able to gain yards whichever way Georgia chooses to try to defend them, and that's a very scary proposition because Georgia used to be that team, and maybe to some extent still can be, but we're not seeing as much of that this year. Like Georgia's having to pass it 40 times to put points on the board, and that's a very uncomfortable spot.
What is Georgia's identity right now? What is it? Can you sum it up in one word? Because I can. Go ahead, Dane. Do you have a word to sum up this team? Or a couple.
Ahead.
I don't care if it's
Go
just
ahead.
more than one.
I'll ponder.
Andy?
Confusing. I don't know.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I mean, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Undisciplined. That's what they are. And that's exactly why, Dane, you probably didn't see it last night when I came on the show. I said, right now, I do not like this football team. What I just watched with the Atlanta Falcons, I love that football team. They have an identity. They mash the football. They play man football. Georgia right now makes me want to pull my hair out and say, what are we doing half the time? It's undisciplined, and that's not a good identity.
Well, and we know that's not a top-down thing with Kirby Smart. That's been a hallmark of him at Georgia. Yeah. So what has happened since the last time we saw Georgia be disciplined? Some of that, I think, that Will Muschamp is not there.
Yeah, a couple of coach changes. I think that was one of the biggest thing.
But T-Rob is a really good coach, too. So,
sure he is.
And he's Will Muschamp's protege.
Yeah.
Like, he was there beside him in South Carolina that whole time. So there's no one that you could have picked to fill that void better than him.
But
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this: I'm not impressed with Dante Jackson too much.
I think he might be a one and done. We saw what happened with Southern Cal. That was when he got hired here. We were like, wait a minute, that's the worst part of their defense. And now, what's the worst part of our defense?
That's a good read, Andy, because if you remember, Jamal Adai comes to Georgia and then decided to go to Miami. How many coaches are choosing to?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. Yeah, no, that was
that way. So I don't know. I could be totally wrong with that. I'm just looking similar to you. I'm looking at the evidence on the field and saying this doesn't feel like Georgia.
Well, and we talked about the running game. Again, I'm not wanting to jump on the Stacey Searles. He sucks. But what's different? When Pittman was here, we mauled people. We were that big bully team. And then it started dipping off when we went to Matt Luke. Now it's a little bit different now. So again, I'm not saying Stacey Searles is an issue, but what's different? And that's different. So I don't know. I mean, I give Kirby the benefit of the doubt because he has won 2 national championships and he is still, he's the guy, but maybe he's made a couple of coaching hires that are maybe he'll make some more coaching changes. Maybe that'll happen at the offseason. I don't know. But
my sense from people that I've talked to for a few years is that Stacey Searles is an upgrade over Matt Luke.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that. Yeah.
And if on the field that's not evident, I would tell you that maybe relationally. But that could be one-sided from a few people there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to throw this out too. So Dane if y'all don't know, Dane and Roddy Nabolsi and Coach Jim Donnan do a watch-along show during the game. Great stuff. Jim Donnan is amazing. By the way, I love Jim Donnan. He's a damn good dog through and throughout. I mean, he's just awesome. And I love the way he loves the university. But that being said, Dane, I want to know what you guys talked about, if you talked about it. And I bring this up because I hate to say it, but it kind of falls into this mantra we're seeing with the Dawgs about being undisciplined, off the field issues. When Kirby Smart shoved the quarterback, and he claims, A, he didn't know about what he was doing, and B, he was trying to get to his defensive coordinator. Did y'all see that, talk about that? Was that brought up, or was that just kind of glossed over? I'm curious what y'all thought about that.
I mean, it happened late in the game when we were, frankly, just ready to get off air, just because it was such a slog in that second half because we thought we were going to essentially have a running clock. So by the time we got to the end of it, we didn't have some big grand discussion on it. I mean, I pulled that clip and threw it out on Twitter, and I think it took off, not because of me. It was going to take off anyway. Because, I mean, it's not a great look on its face, but it's also, man, that's sideline behavior sometimes. I don't think Kirby meant anything malicious, but if you also want to say, hey, can't talk about undisciplined players if you can't recognize your own situation on the sideline. Like, all of those things can be true. That nothing mean was intended. But yeah, like on its face, it's not a good look for sure.
Right.
So, if someone's trying to use that against Georgia in whatever way, you totally can in a 5-second clip. I'll be curious to see if he makes an apology to Van Buren. I mean, Van Buren didn't care. It didn't.
No, he didn't.
He turned around, went right back to the field.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He sure did.
Which, to his credit, because I think there are a lot of players in the country that would have stopped and made a scene.
Oh,
there.
yeah. Shedeur Sanders would have probably slugged him, somebody like that. But I also think, Dane, it was kind of silly. I mean, Kirby was asked about it in the presser, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was trying to get to my defensive coordinator. He knew exactly. He knows everything. He knew exactly what that reporter was asking about. He just played it off. So to what you just said, him making an apology, I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm not going to say there are a lot of people that saying it should be. That's not my place to say if it should be or not. I didn't think it was a great look. Yeah, I can throw my opinion on that.
Andy, what was your opinion on it?
My opinion was Kirby just was trying to get to his players. I don't think he knew who he was pushing. I don't think it was anything other than he was there.
But maybe even if he's pushing his own players,
exactly.
Better.
I'm with you, but I'm with you, but still, I just didn't think it was that big of a deal to me. To me, it wasn't that big of a deal. But maybe it was, but to me, it wasn't a big deal. I just think he was.
Here's the thing: you got people like Danny Cannell, and take him for what he's worth. He's saying Kirby should be suspended. I understand, but that's the other side of it, right? We as fans, as supporters of Georgia, we're going to be like, no big deal. That's what Kirby said. But you got my sister-in-law was watching, this huge Tech fan. She's like, oh my God, look what Kirby's getting away with. This is ridiculous. No other coach in America could get away for this. So that's the other side of it, that everybody's watching Georgia and seeing all these other issues and seeing, well, there's another one. Not a good look. So,
I mean, you're asking what the line between passion and reckless is, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's always invested. He's still the college football player that gets jacked up for everything. Dan Jackson is modern day Kirby in that way. Maybe Georgia should go ahead and sign Dan to a head coaching job for future, if that's going to.
How about just a scholarship? Can we start there?
Okay, good point. Hey, before we put the Mississippi State game to bed, we do have to pick the M. Jones play of the game and player of the game. I remind everyone that you need to go check out M. Jones Heating and cooling. I think I have that name right.
It's
I'm looking on the screen.
mjoneshvac.com, but that's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah.
There's the website. And the reason I say this, Eddie, is because I was looking back at my electricity bill because, it has a little grid on there to show you the last 12 months of what was most expensive. And it was January last year for me because when it gets a little cooler down here in Georgia, that heating unit has to work pretty hard. So right now is the best time to get that taken care of and maybe save you some money if you have some things that haven't been checked out in the last year for your heating systems. So M. Jones can help you do that. Let's start with play of the game. I can tell you what our Film Don't Lie play of the game is.
You go first. You're the new guy. You go first.
I'm the new guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, new to the show, right?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
The play of the game for us was Carson Beck rolling out to his right and hitting Dylan Bell in the back of the end zone, and Dylan Bell making a really great extended grab, getting
Circus
the toe
catch
down. Yeah, it's a sick catch. That seemed like it elevated Georgia's offensive confidence and maybe put Beck in position one. When Mississippi State said, we're rushing 3, and Beck's just like, okay, I'll hang out literally all day long and wait until someone gets open. But on that particular play, I saw Beck's confidence elevate some. And, when Georgia's receivers make plays for him, you can see him gain a little more trust in them. That may be something to watch at Texas is, can Dylan Bell or Dom Lovett make a catch that moves the chains one time or gets points on the board? That's a really tough catch. There aren't many people at Georgia that can do that. There aren't many people in the country that can do that. It was great.
Eddie, go ahead. And there's a comment. There's a comment down there for you, Eddie, from some guy named Paul Maharry. He says, doing a great job, Dane. Wish I could say the same about Eddie.
And he
I
has
guess
no
he has Wi-Fi on the boat, right? He's on a cruise.
I don't think he's left quite yet. I think he's packing.
He's leaving tomorrow.
As always, no comment about Andy. It's just, he bashes me and gives Dane great praise. So, whatever. It's so hurtful. So mine is going to be, Andy, we usually do something positive for the Dogs. Mine's going to actually be negative. Okay. My play of the game, and you referenced it earlier, Dane, was that awful interception Beck threw in the end zone. Okay. And the reason I bring that up is at that point, the game's 34-17. Mississippi State gets that ball back, and before you know it, it's 34-24.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we went down the field, and that's when ETN punched it in, and we went up 41-24. But God forbid we have a turnover there or a stop on downs. We're talking a whole new ball game. That was a terrible interception. And
do you remember what down that was?
Was it second, Dane?
It was first down in the red zone.
Oh, it was first down. Oh, that's even worse. Yeah. I'd forgotten that. So that
makes
it even worse.
The defensive drive before that, Georgia had a third down stop and had Mississippi State 4th and long, but Chaz ripped the helmet off of the player.
Well, they had like 3 penalties on that drive, didn't they? That kept them alive. That was
but it was a combination of those things that kept Mississippi State in the game.
Yeah. So anyway, that was mine.
My M. Jones player of the game was very close to that play, Eddie. So the score at the time was 34-24, and Nate Frazier had just had a 2-yard loss, and it was on first down, and then Beck scrambled for 8 yards, and that set up the third and I guess 6 or whatever, and we were able to convert, and then they went and scored and took over. But yeah, if Beck doesn't scramble for that, and that's coming after the interception, if he doesn't scramble and get that, I don't know that we get the first down. Maybe we punt, and who knows what happens after that. So
that's a great call.
Andy, let's stick with you for the M. Jones player of the game.
My M. Jones player of the game is Anthony Evans. He had the one huge rush for 52 yards. He had 4 catches for 41 yards, and he had a punt return for 6 yards for a total of 99 yards. I really think he is going to break one. I think he is going to take a punt return to the house. He's going to, he's just right there on that edge. I think he's going to be a big playmaker, and maybe, just maybe down in Austin, Texas, he does something big to spark the team, and maybe he makes that play that you were talking about, Dane. But
we're going to show this on Film Don't Lie, but the rush that he had, it's a really unique thing that Oscar Delp has to do on that play, where it looks like he's going to the right to block, has to stop in his tracks and turn back around to the left. Oscar Delp's taken a lot of heat, I think, this year, just because maybe unmet expectations. Ben Urosic has too, and if you look at his PFF grade, he was fantastic in that game yesterday. Though,
he played much better.
We found a whiff of a block that we'll show as well late in the game. I think it was him and Humphreys, maybe. Anywho, Oscar Delp had a really key block on the Anthony Evans long rush that we'll highlight in Film Don't Lie.
Eddie?
All right. My M. Jones player of the game is Dan Jackson. We already brought him up, but that guy, that one play he made, I think it was a little flare out to the running back, and he came in like a missile and destroyed that play, just blew it up. He only had 5 tackles. He wasn't the leading tackler, but I just love him. He's a ball hawk, right? Everywhere the football is, Dan Jackson is around. And we brought it up earlier. Why isn't this guy on scholarship? And we can do this maybe after you say your player of the game, Dane, but does it really matter now with the NIL? Is that such a big deal that Dan's not on scholarship? Because he's probably making some money in NIL. Now, I don't know if it's covering his his tuition. I don't know how all that works, but is it really that big a deal now that a guy's not on scholarship with the NIL?
I think by the time you can answer that question, we're having a bigger reckoning of what is the role of education in student athletes' lives as the NCAA becomes more and more toothless.
Yeah.
I do think at some point in the next 5 years, there's going to be a general discussion of, do they even have to go to class if they want to? I mean, they're professional athletes, right? Can they just be the sports team that is associated with the university? And if they want to go to class, they could, but
I've been saying that for a while. It's happening. The student athlete part will just become athlete. There will be no student to it. It's happening.
Is it possible, Dane, that maybe Dan has an agreement with Kirby that's like, I'm happy with the NIL, keep my scholarship and just give it to somebody else. I'm happy.
Totally.
I
mean, there are definitely walk-ons at Georgia that would have transferred somewhere else had there not been some cash along the way.
Okay.
I think we can easily say that. And there are also players that have been walk-ons at Georgia that they get more cash elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's what they left. Even if you look at, he's not a walk-on, but a guy like Xavier Sori is starting at Arkansas.
Right? Making plays. Yeah.
He would not be starting at Georgia, even though he's much older than I guess he started late in his career at Georgia, but it's a good question to have. I wonder what that relationship is going to be. And Andy, you may have some of these same thoughts as just like people that are around campus all the time. But the biggest PR arm for the university, the academic side, is that football team.
It's football team. Yeah.
That football team being good draws applications from people that just want to be around that.
Yeah.
And if that football team is not as good, you will see not enrollment numbers drop, but maybe application numbers drop a little bit. You've seen them surge in the last 4 years. And so I think there's always going to be an incentive to have a relationship between that university and that program. And that's where the history is going to be. And plus, it never needs to be where like classes aren't at least optional for some of these, because some of these dudes aren't going to play pro football. Even the ones that are hotshot recruits, that's at best, even under Georgia, like a 50-50 proposition. Yeah. So the smart ones will go to class and get a degree and then forever say, I was a letterman at the University of Georgia, and use that to help them in however they can in their careers. The ones that don't choose to do that, meritocracy, right?
Yeah. And I think it's going to happen soon. You see it with you. So let's just say you got 5-star Eddie from Acworth that gets an NIL deal of $2 or $3 million a year. Is he going to have to worry about going to class? I know $4 to $8 million doesn't necessarily set you up if you blow it, but that guy is not going to go to class, and it's happening. I don't even know if it'll be 5 years, to be honest, Dane. I think it's going to be within the next 2 or 3 years because it's changing rapidly.
I know how slowly these things can happen.
The last couple of years we've seen a lot of change, and I just think it's going to come really fast. But,
we'll talk about the 12-team playoff structure in a moment.
Oh yeah, that's changing.
You might want to savor that because that made 2024 pretty darn.
That's happening. Yeah, within the next 2 or 3 years, and I think it's all going to be tied into the student athlete. Oh yeah.
Yep.
My M. Jones player of the game, and I'm trying. Going out on a limb a little bit here, and it's more of a projection of I like what this guy did in the game, and if Georgia gets to where it wants to go, I think it's going to require him to continue to elevate his role. Xavier McLeod on the defensive line, I thought was very solid, handled his space well, and you just see him gaining a bit more confidence with a position that I think Georgia's pretty slim at, both in depth and maybe even talent. That may end up being, I was saying leadership on transfers and things. It seems like he's kind of pacing that part of it more naturally than being thrust in there. So I like what I've seen from Xavier McLeod.
Yeah. We've got to have a guy right there in that defensive line to step up. I think that's one of our glaring needs. But yeah, I like it.
So I do want to briefly have a discussion on where we're at with this 12-team playoff, because I was texting with a buddy of mine who actually used to be a walk-on player at Georgia, and he used my tickets to the game yesterday since I did the watch-along show. But he asked me, he's like, if the season ended right now, what would be the 12-team playoff? And it was a pretty interesting exercise to go through, knowing that the structure as the conference champions get the bye. Right now, there would be something like Texas, Oregon, Clemson, BYU as your top four. It'd be something like that. Yeah. And then beyond that, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Miami, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Pitt or Iowa State. And then you have to have a group of five, which is Army, Navy, Liberty.
Right, right.
Now, there's so many teams that would be like tied at the same thing right now. But yeah, it was I did a prediction in the same text thread where I said at the end of it, I would think it was going to be Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, and BYU as your buys.
Okay.
Because I think Ohio State will get Oregon again.
You think they'll, okay.
Even after watching last night, I think Ohio State's a better team. I know that's an unpopular opinion to say they battled it out on the field, but give me another 6 weeks, and I like Jeremiah Smith to even make more plays.
Their defense was supposed to be all world, though, and they were not that. They got torched last night.
Understood. And then beyond that, I would have Notre Dame, Oregon, Miami, LSU. I feel like on all these shows, I feel like I hype LSU more than anyone in the world. But I'm all about. I think Garrett Nussmeier is the best quarterback in the country.
He's really good. Yeah.
I was telling Georgia fans a month ago that Georgia would be a better team if had Garrett Nussmeier than Carson Beck, and that wasn't a shot.
He was better than Jackson Dart last night, was he not?
Absolutely, he was.
There you go.
There's not a quarterback in the country I'd rather have than Garrett. He's making NFL quality throws. Now, he's making some interceptions, too, because he tries some stuff.
Yeah, he throws a lot of picks.
Well, don't you remember in the SEC championship against us, he came in and torched our ass.
He put us up, but we had dropped back, so we weren't. The defense
still did it.
It was more the mentality of Andy that this cat comes off the bench and he's like, bleep it, I'm letting it rip.
Yeah. He lit us up.
No doubt.
Plus, you have him and you have 2 first-round tackles, and that's what Brian Kelly talked about. Like, even though all the other things weren't working well and Ole Miss was better, LSU literally did not lead in that game until it won. That was the first time it had the lead. So Ole Miss was a better team, but when you have that quarterback and skill players that are growing with a first-round left tackle and a first-round right tackle, I think that keeps you in every single football game that you're in. I think LSU could beat every team in the country. I also think LSU could lose to 30 teams in the country.
But you can almost say that for anybody. Is there an elite team this year?
No.
I don't think there was an elite team. And we saw when LSU in 2019, they were dominant. Alabama in 2020, us in 21, 22. There's been dominant teams. We haven't seen the dominant team this year. And you could almost put the top 15 and mix them up and they could lose to anybody. So I just don't think there's a dominant team this year.
Texas would be the closest thing, and we haven't really seen them super tested. We'll find out this weekend.
Yeah, we'll know Saturday if there's a dominant team or not.
So I had LSU, Kansas State.
What is
Kansas
your question
State
about? I'm sorry, Dane. Go ahead.
LSU, Kansas State, Georgia, SMU, and Liberty were the others. Okay. Watch out for SMU.
They looked really bad early on, so they were struggling, but they're coming.
So what is your exact question about the playoffs, then, Dane?
How bonkers is this going to be to freaking pick these teams by the end of this?
If you look at the AP top 25 right now, you have Illinois 5-1. I mean, that's the thing, and they're 22 in the AP poll. You have
6-0.
You have Army's 23 at 6-0. Michigan, they're 4-2. Let's say they knock off Ohio State. They're at 24. Okay. They're shooting up to the top. That's the thing. It's going to be crazy. I mean,
Indiana's undefeated.
They are undefeated,
but they're undefeated.
Still undefeated. Yeah. I mean, you got Boise. Yeah, and Texas A&M's getting a lot better. They look good.
The fun part of the exercise is going to be something like, all right, let's say Alabama has 3 losses, which totally seems plausible.
It can happen. Yeah.
How do you compare an undefeated Alabama or a 3-loss Alabama to a 2-loss SMU? I have no idea. Especially if it's in Alabama that you're like, oh yeah, they could have lost 4 more games.
Yeah.
And so the committee is just gonna be throwing darts at a board.
Yeah.
There may be some things that are evident, but I just think I don't know how you.
Let me clarify this. I'm sorry, I should know this. The winners of the championship games are locked in to seeds 1 through 4. Is that right? Or are they just locked into the playoffs?
Conference champions get the buys.
1 through 4 bye.
So they're 1 through 4. So you could conceivably, if the SEC keeps beating each other up, have a 10 and 2.
Well, 10-2 or 9-3, whatever you're trying to get to. Yes,
9-3 is probably not realistic, but you could, right?
Could.
You could have a 9-3 Texas A&M who takes the slot of somebody else, possibly, right? And that's what I'm going back to, Dane. I'm telling you, I think within, I'm going to say 2 years, the SEC, the championship games, not just SEC, are going away. They are going away, and it's just going to be a pool. And they're going to expand it that way because that's one less weekend they're going to play. They're going to back it up and make it 16 or 24 teams. That's where we're going.
If they don't expand it, it'll stay. If they do expand it, that's how they do it. Because they'll need, just on the calendar, they'll need that.
They'll have to have the time. Yeah.
But so, yeah, I agree that's like, because they can sell more games, more TV contracts, more money. That's how this works.
But let's say this, and this is conceivable. What happens if Georgia ends up 10-2 and they play a 10-2 team? I'm not even going to say who. Who cares? It doesn't matter. And you got a 10-2 team or 2 10-2 teams from the SEC sitting at home watching the football game, and we lose, and we're 10-3. Are we out?
Probably.
You're asking, is Georgia potentially playing in an SEC championship punitive to its chances?
Yes.
Meaning that had they been the 3rd ranked team in the
got
SEC,
it.
not qualifying for Atlanta, that they would be
Yes.
better off for the playoff. And I think you're absolutely correct.
Yes.
But in fact, Eddie, I would tell you the best path for an SEC team to win a national championship is to be 3rd in the conference.
Right.
Yeah.
Sit at
Because
home.
I suspect you're
100%.
hosting a home game in the
You're
first
hosting
round.
home.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is one of the problems with the structure of like, why does seeds 4 through 8 get to host a home game, but not 1 through 4?
Right.
Yeah, makes no sense.
That's stupid as hell.
I think they should change that. They should have just bowl games for those first round, and then the next week or the next round, let that be the home games. Let
Mhm.
1 through 4 host the home games.
Yep.
Shout out Casey for the super chat here. We have another partner that we need to give some love to before I sit here and try to figure out what this Falcons box score means, right?
We do. Let's talk about our partners, our friends over at Howard Technology Solutions. So these guys have helped us out at UGA. They have done multiple rooms for us. If you own a business, if you are wanting to upgrade, I actually talked to him. Paul's wanting to get a new computer for his home. They will sell you new computers for personal use, but they have meeting rooms. They'll come in, do your projectors, your screens, your speakers. They'll do any kind of video conferencing you want. Check out Howard Technology Solutions. And the cool thing about them is they're good guys too, because they're Mississippi State fans. Most of these, they're based out of Mississippi, and most of these guys are Mississippi State fans. So I've gotten a couple of texts from them saying congratulations. But yeah, they were all excited to be a part of us with the Mississippi State game. But yeah, check those guys out. They'll do you really good. And like Paul was talking about last week, their website's really cool. So go check them out at Howard Technology Solutions.
And they should be proud of the way their team played yesterday.
Played really good.
They played really well.
Yeah. So
Paul just wants them to hook him up so he can do some.
he
more
does. He's trying to get a
online
free
gaming.
computer. Yeah, he's trying to get a free
It's
computer.
gaming. It's online gaming.
I know the
'cause
hustle.
He's
I know the
14
hustle.
years old. That's right.
Hey, I play online games too, dude. So,
Well, you're 14 as well. So there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
Eddie, not everyone can be your age, my friend.
75.
That's true.
So-
I'm not 70.
Did I hit the Paul joke? I was trying. I was going the
No,
Paul
it's-
route
it's-
there.
Yeah, you did a good job.
I have no idea how old you are, Eddie, which is a compliment. I have no idea. I know you have
Really?
like essentially adult kids.
Take a guess. Can you take a
Nope.
guess?
Nope, not playing that game.
All right.
I play that game
All
with students at UGA all the time. So I'm
right,
I'm
then I
wise
won't
to
tell
it.
you. How about that? I'll just leave it nil.
So
him and Bill Shanks are the same age.
Atlanta
But he doesn't know
Falcons.
how old Bill is.
Atlanta Falcons beat the Carolina Panthers 38-20, and I didn't watch a single down of this. Y'all did, so why don't y'all tell me what happened, and I'll look at the box score and tell you if there's anything that stood out to me.
Go ahead, Eddie.
All right, I will go ahead. And the thing that should stand out to you is 200 rushing yards between Tyler Algiers and
Yes.
Bijan Robinson. And my favorite part of this game, Dane, is that we had the football, I think, with 6 minutes left, and we were up by, Andy, 8 points, something like that.
It was
I
8
don't
points
know.
at that time.
Yeah, it was still within a score.
It was
right?
28 to 20 at the time, I believe.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Absolute baton death march down the field. Hand the ball off, run. And you know what it reminded me of? And it's sad because I have to go back to this. I texted you this, Andy. The last time we saw Georgia do that was in the national championship game against Bama with Zeus. Just mash the football. And that makes me more excited as a football fan than anything. Dane, you don't watch the Falcons. I understand. I get it. Not an NFL guy. That's fine. This is not my daddy's Falcons. This is a good football team with toughness, and they have a good head coach, and they have a stud for a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is really, really good. I'm really excited about what I've seen thus far.
I think the difference is you got a legit NFL quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
When we've seen those guys that aren't very good, not just at the Falcons, but at any team, and they're going to struggle. When you have a guy that can run the offense, and he's not going to make any stupid plays, and you see he's just he can dump it off. He knows not to go down. And you saw the red rocket or red rifle, whatever, Andy Dalton. You saw him make that crazy interception, and that basically iced the game for the Falcons. And you don't see Kirk Cousins making those plays.
The team stats are pretty similar, though. I mean,
yeah, they're not bad.
Carolina ran all over us. Yeah,
Panthers had 2 turnovers and Falcons had 1. But to me, to your point, Eddie, just looking at the box score, it looks like what Kirk Cousins is doing is probably what Falcons quarterbacks have not been able to do for a long time, which is get the ball to the people that are best with the ball in their hands.
Yes.
Drake London having 10 targets in a game where you also almost had 2 100-yard rushers. Okay. It seems like the Falcons are going to be Kirk Cousins handing off to Bijan Robinson or Kirk Cousins passing to Drake London.
Yeah. And Tyler Algier had 18 carries for 105 yards. He went over the 100-yard mark, and Bijan Robinson didn't. So they were talking about it on the game that every team needs 2 running backs, and that's what the Falcons have right now. Yeah. I mean, now they're fun to watch. It's like you said, it's not the team that you just oh, this sucks, and you just watch it because you're a fan. This is a fun team to watch. So, and I'll say this: the Panthers actually looked pretty decent for the first quarters.
They have some weapons, and that tells you right there, how bad Bryce Young has been. Right, he's been absolute garbage, and you have a quarterback, a veteran like Andy Dalton, who kind of knows what's going on and can do some things right, and made the right throws. You're right; it was a bad throw at the end of the game that sealed the win, but he made some really good throws. And 2 players I'll point out on the Carolina Panthers: Chuba Hubbard, that guy's a beast, and also is it J.C. Horn? Is that his first name? Joe Horn's son. Man, that kid's a ball player. He's a good defensive back. So I mean, but Carolina's not that good. They're just not that good. And when we went down 7-0, you had visions in your head. Oh my God, here we go. It's going to be a dogfight. And the Falcons pounded their ass. They just didn't mess around. I love it.
So, Eddie, I'm looking at the schedule for the Falcons. They're 4-2 right now.
Yeah.
They have 5 games before bye week in week 12. I think it's a decent chance they go 4-1 of those games. If you wake up and the Falcons are 8-3 going into week 13.
Who would have ever thought?
Read off the schedule, Dane, who the opponents are.
Next week is Seattle at home. I think Atlanta should be better in that game.
Yeah.
At Tampa, I think that's the hardest one on this stretch.
Yeah, I'm gonna chalk that up as a loss just because we have trouble down in Tampa. So 1-1.
Dallas at home.
Dallas is garbage.
Seeing what the Lions just did to them.
Dude,
they're terrible.
And the Lions may be one of the best teams in the NFL.
Oh yeah, the Lions are great. 2-1.
At the Saints, which is either Carr coming back and being Carr or Spencer Rattler.
That's tough though.
But I get it, Superdome, whatever.
We'll go 2-2 off that.
See, I think that's probably a win for the Falcons, but that's because I went from loving the Saints because they were so much fun to hating the Saints because they're no fun.
Yeah.
And then at Denver.
And they'll win that
good defense, but
but come on.
They can't score. Yeah.
So 3-2, 4-1. That's 4-1, 3-2. Yeah.
Now the stretch after that, you get Chargers at Minnesota. You get the Raiders. That'll be a win. Giants, Washington, Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's a manageable schedule. The rest
Sure
of
it is.
this
Sure
this
it is.
playoff team.
They might can win 10 games, maybe 11. So yeah, that's the thing. It's possible.
But it's the way they're playing. That's what I like, right? I mean, they're 4-2. You should have won against the Steelers, right? And we had the Chiefs game. We really could have won that. I mean, there's a chance this team could be 6-0. You are what you are. I get that. But it's not – these aren't like miracle wins that we're pulling out of our ass. Today was a beatdown. And that's what you want to see against a bad football team. And they did exactly that. We lost to the Panthers last year. You remember that?
Yeah, they did.
We lost to them. It was terrible. It was one of the worst losses. I mean, thank God we did because I got Arthur Smith out of town. But, you can't lose to teams like that. And we didn't do that today. So I'm proud of them.
You're just extra fanboying because Kirk Cousins and his wife, that's a Georgia fan, went and hung out at the House of Pain. And it's all good vibes.
He was walking around campus with those spiked shoulder pads on. Yeah, and that's the other thing, Dane. You joke about it, but Kirk Cousins gets it.
He gets it.
Right? The guy's a leader. He's embracing Atlanta. He's embracing the Dogs. He gets it, and I love that.
Might you say some of the things that the Falcons are tapping into, or some of the things that are feeling absent from Georgia?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, which is
100%.
crazy to think that you would have thought with Kirby at the helm, you would have thought this would never be an issue. So it's kind of weird, right? There is a weird feeling, but I think we're okay. But there is a weird feeling now.
There are no weird feelings from my buddy Brent Rollins, who we're going to do Film Don't Lie. He's rocking his North Oconee Titans hat, which means that we are going to wrap the show here with our GHSA football scoreboard presented by Howard Technology Solutions. Howard Technology Solutions serves vertically for higher education, K-12, government, medical, and enterprise. If you need any technical assistance, call Justin Allen. They recently upgraded 2 meeting rooms for us as I'm reading this. Not for me. I didn't do any of that at all. I'm reading Andy's notes. And speakers and projectors and video conferencing.
Yeah.
Cool. But I can tell you they're great people, and they support the show, support people who support it. I am skipping ahead to bullet point number 2, North Oconee BD side 40-35. We have a father of a player on that team.
How about that? 8-0.
Nice.
Let's go. That was one of the best high school football games that I've seen in a long time.
That's awesome.
Both teams just talent all over the field. I mean, obviously North has Georgia commit Landon Roldan at wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
They also have a junior, Dallas Dickerson, who's a 10-500 4.4 kid that had a 31-yard touchdown in the game.
Have another player that just got an offer from Georgia, Kamari Brooks.
Yep. Kamari Brooks, tight end linebacker, that's just got an offer from Georgia. And then obviously with Christian Gass, Tennessee commit, and
quarterback is Buster Faulkner's son.
Yep, all that. Jaden, I think it was Jaden or Caden, something Barr. His last name was Barr. The kid, number 11 for East Side. OMG, that kid he was 6 foot, 6'1", 195 pounds. I was just watching. I didn't know he was a tech commit before the game, and I was talking to a friend. I said, 11 looks different. And he scored 5 touchdowns in the game. But it was just a back and forth. I think we went up 2 scores, and then they came roaring back. It was just a phenomenal high school football game. 2 very talented teams that I think will compete big time in 4A. So
and
awesome.
Andy and Eddie, you know that Brent and I try to be objective when we talk about the stuff we see. Not the case of North Oconee. Freaking go Titans. High school's right over there. I can see the lights right now. My daughter goes to Rocky Branch Elementary right beside it. Freaking
and my
go
son
Titans.
played his tail off. I rarely
awesome.
get in that realm. But my son played his tail off.
That's fantastic. What a feeling. What a feeling.
How many tackles?
For you, Brent.
I think 11, 12, maybe something like that.
Gosh, that's awesome.
And a lot of one-on-ones against the Barr kid who, if he doesn't make the play, it's house call.
Do you grade your son, Brent? Do you grade your son?
No. I only watch.
I'm kidding.
It was me or ass. Seriously, though. Because, 1, I don't have time. But 2, it's just, that's his world.
No, I get it. I'm kidding.
Now, I will say they did run the 2-point play unsuccessfully that I sent their head coach 4 years ago, but that didn't work out. I got a different one for him.
Andy, run through these scores.
So we got sort of shouting out Paul's Monroe area. They lost to Cherokee Bluff 52-24. So
He says shout out for the loss.
Yeah, hey, we have to shout out Paul's team each week. They
That's
seem
all right.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, do I need to go look up what my high school did? I don't even know. I should.
Yeah, I would have put yours on there, but I didn't know it.
Yeah, I got you. I'm working on it.
Oconee County beat West Hall 50-0 to improve to 4-3. So that's strong.
Oh, by the way, freaking Whit Weeks LSU. Woo!
Yeah.
That dude's gonna be SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and from all accounts, his little brother Weeks, because there's like a billion
Zach.
Weeks boys out there.
Zach's the younger brother.
Current stud at Oconee, and I think he already has LSU.
I don't get. I went to high school with their dad, David, and he was a Georgia boy. Why do they keep going to LSU? I just don't get it. But whatever,
I mean, it's where the offers are. I don't know if Whit had an
know.
offer from Georgia. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you may be right. You may be right.
We got Jefferson beat Monroe area. Oh shoot, hang on. I have that. Sorry, that was last week. Marist beats
St. Pius.
Marist, yeah, they beat them 24-0. And Eddie, you wanted to comment on that?
Yeah, I
didn't
want to jump in here. So shout out to Marist coach Alan Chadwick, who coached me 35 years ago. 41 years this man has been on the job. And shout out to Paul Etheridge, who's been on our show, the offensive coordinator. Jeff, you were at the defensive coordinator. Alan Chadwick, 41 years, and I could not believe this, guys. Marist has been to the playoffs 41 straight years. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
They still run the triple option?
They run bits and pieces of it. It's not a true triple option. It's here and
Is
there.
it kind of like that Willie Fritz style, which you can spread out, but still get the option?
Yeah. But I mean, the amazing thing about Marist is they have one player who's committed to Arkansas State. That's the highest offer. They have like the number one baseball player on their team. Marist is just a machine, and we can talk about the way these changes go, but it's going to hurt Marist. Upcoming changes, the GHSA.
Well,
Go ahead, Andy.
Marist is back in 4A now, so
yeah, but these
potential
changes could
playoff
put them.
match.
They could put them in 6A really quickly.
Ooh.
So tell us about those changes real quick, Eddie.
So, Brent, have you kept up with these proposed changes they're maybe going with in 2 years?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's performance based, right? Everything else was based on
relegation
attendance so far, but now they're looking at a proposal in 2026 to change it to performance, where it's almost relegation, right, Dane? Where if you're doing really well in the playoffs over a bunch of sports, right, and they weight it, gymnastics has a smaller number, obviously, than basketball would, but if you do well in the playoffs, you could move up or down based on how you perform. Now, I think the main thrust of this is because of the private schools and how they've been just
Prince.
kind of exactly.
Like Prince is murdering everybody.
Exactly. So Prince would probably in that scenario move up and be more, compete with teams in public school and allow the smaller public schools to it's very interesting. Go read about it. I'm not going to get into all the details, but there's goods and bads of it, but I kind of like the proposal overall.
The logistical challenge will just be travel. If you played well enough that all of a sudden, if you're a southeastern Georgia team, you have to be going to Atlanta every other week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tough. And our last score we have is Harrison beat South Cobb 52-0 to improve to 6-1.
First year head coach came over from Osborne. He's doing some great things. That's right in my backyard here, Harrison. So
I think Dan was telling us on a group meeting about a kid that's a kicker, maybe that was at UGA.
Oh, that
Harrison's
guy,
kicker, right? Really good.
He's really good. Yeah. I watched him in person a few weeks ago. I mean, every kick was like out of the end zone. He just bombs the ball.
Really?
Yeah.
I did look up my high school. The East Lawrence Falcons lost 27-21. They're 2-4 in the season. They lost to the Academy for Classical Education.
What? Is that a real thing, or did you just
make that up? You made that up, didn't you?
I'm looking at this right now on MaxPrep. It's ACE, I think is what they call it. It's in Macon. I'd never heard of that before. I don't know.
Did the football team do the halftime show, like play the band and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that would happen at my high school all the time, where a player or multiple players would not go in for the halftime thing because they have to play trumpet. Oh yeah,
you're kidding. You're kidding.
All
right?
the time.
That's awesome.
No.
Oh my gosh, I was kidding. I'd never heard of that. Brent, where did you go to high school?
In Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Oh, that's right. You're from up north. I forgot about that.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, in my high school's Hall of Fame, Eddie.
Oh, he dropped a Hall of Fame on you.
Look at this guy.
I was once decent at sports back in the day.
What position did you play? Were you a quarterback?
Yes, I played. We were wing tee, like spreads, wing tee stuff before it became popular, but wing tee, safety, baseball and basketball too. So
very cool. I want a picture. You need to send us a picture of that. You on the Hall of Fame.
Back when I had hair.
Yeah, that exactly.
Oh, I can't imagine you with hair because I've only known you no hair.
Yes, I actually had nice hair. It just went away very quickly.
Decided it didn't want to stay.
It went away.
Speaking of relegation,
I do hold a record that I think will likely never be broken. Longest blocked field goal return for a touchdown, like
How long?
75 or 80 yards, something like that.
You
Really?
blocked it and did it, or somebody else blocked
Blocked
it?
the field goal, picked it up, run it back for a touchdown.
Wow, very cool.
That's awesome.
Hey, this has been the Peach State Power Hour, and I have to wrap it because me and Brent have to get on and do some Film Don't Lie stuff. So, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we appreciate you
thank
joining us.
you. It's awesome. A lot of fun. We enjoyed it.
Shout out to our sponsors one more time, Andy.
Yeah, let's just make sure if you need some heat and air, go to H Jones HVAC. Check
M
those
Jones.
guys out.
M Jones.
That's what
M.
I'm sorry. I'll say
Sorry.
M Jones and check with.
Okay. Hold on, Eddie.
You
Let's do the sponsor read. Ask the wrong person.
Well, he can do Howard. I'll do M Jones HVAC.
Okay.
Go to mjoneshvac.com. All right. They can come fix your furnace problems like Dane's having. It's cold outside. Your mama's got to be warm in the winter, right? Get them out there, fix your furnace right now before prices go up in 2025. 10% off repairs, 5% off all installations if you mention UGA Sports.
And if you have any technology issues, go to Howard Technology Solutions. Those guys will set you up.
All right, that's been it for the Peach State Power Hour. I don't have the video I'm supposed to play here, so I'm just going to end the stream. Thanks, everybody.